Before the first light touched the hills of Judah, a young shepherd named David stood watch over his flock near Bethlehem around the year 1000 BCE, staff in hand and lyre slung across his back. From that solitary encounter with danger and provision came the words of Psalm 23. On the Bible, explained, we slow down and look closely at one passage and the world it came from. In the next several minutes, we will walk line by line through Psalm 23 in the King James Version, pausing at each verse to notice the real landscape, the daily work of herding sheep, and the simple trust the psalm expresses. The historical setting is the rocky Judean countryside where water was scarce. Wolves and lions were real threats, and a shepherd's rod and staff were everyday tools for both protection and guidance. Psalm 23 begins with a single clear statement. The King James Version reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." In the ancient world, a shepherd owned the sheep and was responsible for every part of their survival. He led them to whatever pasture existed, guarded them at night in a stone sheepfold, and carried the weakest lambs in his arms. When David wrote these words, he was drawing on years of that exact work. The claim, "I shall not want," did not mean every desire would be granted. It meant the shepherd would supply what the flock truly needed to live. First listeners in Israel would have pictured their own fields and remembered how often their own safety depended on one attentive person who never left the sheep alone. The next verse continues the picture. The King James Version says, "He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters." In the dry Judean hills, green grass appeared only after winter rains, and sheep would not lie down to graze unless they felt completely safe. Still waters meant pools or slow streams where an animal could drink without fear of being swept away. David knew the difference between rushing wadis that could flood in minutes and the quiet springs that lasted through the dry season. The verse therefore speaks of both physical rest and the absence of fear, two gifts the shepherd provided every day before any song was written. Verse 3 adds an inner dimension. The King James Version reads, "He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake." The Hebrew word often translated soul can also mean life or breath. A tired sheep that wandered off the narrow path could quickly become lost among rocks or fall prey to predators. The shepherd's daily task was to bring the animal back and set it on the right trail again. For the first hearers, this line described both physical rescue and the deeper renewal that comes when someone stronger takes responsibility for the weaker one. The phrase, "for his name's sake," reminded listeners that the shepherd's reputation rested on the well-being of every sheep in his care. The well-known fourth verse shifts the scene. The King James Version states, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff they comfort me." Narrow valleys between cliffs were the natural routes between pastures, yet they were also places where lions or bears could hide. The rod was a short club used to strike attackers. The staff was a long crook used to pull a sheep out of a crevice. David had used both tools while protecting his father's flock. The verse therefore places the listener inside the danger, yet insists that the same shepherd who guided the flock now walks beside it with those same tools ready. Verse 5 moves from the pasture to the household. The King James Version says, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over." In ancient hospitality, a host would anoint a guest's head with olive oil as a sign of honor and would keep the cup filled as long as the guest remained. Enemies might stand at the edge of the lamplight, yet the meal continued because the host had taken responsibility for the visitor's safety. David's listeners would have recognized the contrast between the open field and the protected courtyard, and they would have understood the overflowing cup as a picture of generous, uninterrupted provision. The final verse returns to the language of belonging. The King James Version closes, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." In David's time, the house of the Lord was first the tabernacle at Shiloh and later the temple in Jerusalem. To dwell there meant to remain under the protection and provision of the same God who had acted as shepherd in the fields. The word follow can also be rendered pursue, suggesting that goodness and mercy actively stay close rather than merely trail behind. The psalm therefore ends where it began, with the confident expectation that the shepherd's care will continue as long as life lasts. Psalm 23 shows us that the ancient shepherd's daily work of leading, protecting, and providing became the language Israel used to speak of God's steady care. Subscribe to the Bible, explained for more line-by-line walks through Scripture in its original setting. May the same quiet trust that shaped these verses rest upon your own path today and in the days to come.